Hello, my night owls and insomniacs. Welcome back to Keep Me Up podcast. Today, my good friend Jackie. Say hello, Jackie. She's with us.
Hi, guys.
You'll remember her from her cooking book. Do you remember the title of your book?
Do I remember the name of my book?
Yes.
Advanced Home Baking.
That answers that. Okay, so today...
It's so long. It's like 37 words.
I know, it's ridiculous. Anyway, but that's not your fault. That's a topic for another day. So both Jackie and I are huge diehard fans of The West Wing. And this week, I believe it was this week. Yeah, it was last weekend, I believe. The West Wing came back, part of an HBO Max special for also When We All Vote, to work in conjunction with them to help raise money to help with the election coming up. So we were excited to watch it, talk about it, and review it. But first, Jackie, when did you first get into The West Wing?
Well, when it was on, airing in real time, I didn't watch it, but I knew a lot of people who did. Even my parents did. And it was always one of those shows that I had on my list to watch. Mm-hmm. Eventually I'll get to it. And of course I never did, obviously. But during quarantine, and everybody's looking for shows to watch whenever, and it was actually you who was like, watch West Wing. So I was like, okay, and I finally did. And what was it, maybe not even 2 months ago I started it? What happened?
It was just, I think, a blimp just flew past my window.
Oh, all right, cool.
You're good.
So yeah, 2 months ago maybe, I started watching it, and of course I binged it because I have no self-control. And I finished it in probably, was it less than a month?
I think, you finished it in I think just over 2 weeks, which was pretty damn good. And then, of course, I sent you the trailer for this, which you didn't watch, but you got super excited. And you thought it was going to be a brand new kind of episode that took place maybe back during the original cast days and whatnot. Completely ignoring my text that it was that Aaron Sorkin chose to put on a play production of Hartsfield Landing from season 3, which was one of my favorite episodes, and we'll get into that. Of course, I started watching West Wing. I didn't watch it. I watched it in first run because it ran from 99 to 2006. I watched it in first run for the last 2 seasons, which, is showing the decline with a roller coaster of episodes from good to really bad. But that was post Aaron Sorkin leaving. At first, when I first heard about it, I was like, "Oh, this show looks stupid. No one talks that smart."
Really?
Well, because I tend to gravitate towards works of art, films, televisions, and whatnot, and plays. Well, less plays because it's usually wittier dialogue, but film and television that has very realistic dialogue where it's not perfect. There's a lot of room for ums and ahs and just how I'm speaking right now. So when I would see clips of The West Wing during the Emmys when they would sweep or just flipping through the channels, I was like, no one walks and talks like that. No one's that smart. I don't care if they're working the White House or rocket scientists or surgeons. I don't care. No one is that smart. I'd rather watch something like ER. I was a huge fan of ER, also on NBC, which has more realistic dialogue. But then I started getting more political in my awareness of things and more passionate about politics around the 2004 election, Bush versus Kerry. And then Bravo, before Bravo became crazy, they used to air 2 hours of The West Wing every night, Monday to Friday. And so I'm home and I'm doing whatever. And I was like, oh, I'll just have it on in the background, see how they handle politics on this show. And it was the scene, and I believe the episode is 20 Hours in America, where Josh and Toby figure out that they've missed getting to Air Force One because they've been left behind. And Donna's like, they're going to need a minute. And they're kicking sticks and banging road dividers and whatnot. And I was like, this is pretty funny. And then the floodgates opened. I was glued to the TV. I went back. I got the seasons on DVD. And I caught up on 1 through 5 right before 6 started airing. And Wednesday nights at 9 p.m., which today is Wednesday. And now it's 9 p.m. for the premiere, even though we're shooting this in the afternoon. So, synergy. So I became hooked. And, of course, one of my favorite episodes is from Season 3 is Hartsfield Landing, which is, I guess, however they went about doing this, they gave Aaron Sorkin the choice, what episode do you think could lend itself best to what's going on in the world as far as the election and what can translate best onto the stage. And he chose this episode, which in a nutshell deals with Hartsfield Landing, which is the first town in New Hampshire that gets the vote in the primaries. And they still, to this day, as far as I understand, cast their votes. They show up at like midnight or like late at night, and they cast their paper ballots in a ballot box. Very old-fashioned, but it's like a point of pride for their town. And, of course, what the staff is doing that night in the White House, talking about numerous different things from the MS scandal, spoilers, to military action at Taiwan Strait, and so on and so forth. And, of course, the interpersonal relationships, and with a lot of comedy thrown in there. So I was very excited about this episode. And what did you think when you turned it on and you figured out that that was the episode they were doing?
Well, at first I didn't remember, and I had no idea because I didn't watch the trailer. Because I like to be surprised. I had no idea that they were going to do just a repeat episode. So in the beginning, I was like, okay, this is cool, whatever. It began like a lot of typical episodes, and then I texted you right away. I'm like, this sounds familiar. I'm like, why do I feel like I remember this episode? And you're like, duh, stupid. It's blah blah episode. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's a perfect one because clearly it's about voting and especially about like a small town voting system, which is kind of the point that they're trying to drive home, like vote no matter how small it seems in your area or town or whatever, like it matters. So it was a perfect episode.
It really was. I thought it's just like you said, you can't say any differently than that. And they've been promoting it for a while. They were on the cover of Entertainment Weekly, and they've done a slew of interviews, all via video chat such as this. And so right now I have on the screen like the cast back together for the cover, and then all of them at like the voting booths and whatnot. And it's really a strong effort by the cast, even cast members that were main cast later in the series, which we'll get into, who aren't in this episode, really by the majority of the cast and some of the recurring to get people out there. And yes, it's we're not going to lie and say that they don't have a left lean to them. It's all very much in support of Joe Biden and not Donald Trump. But let's just not pretend. That's what the show was, though. Yeah,
he's a Democratic president, so yeah, it makes sense.
And this cast is all very much in line with that. It wasn't just characters they're playing by all accounts. Speaking of the cast, what was it like to see them all again now 14 years after they wrapped the show?
It was nice. I don't know like who's really working that much. Like nobody like stands out to me who's like in a popular show at the moment. So it's been a while since I've seen anybody. And again, that was my favorite part, is like seeing who was going to appear in it. Mm-hmm. And of course, everybody looks older, but it's nice because people get older, and it's just it was weird but nice.
Yeah, I think Martin Sheen's a legend. Oh, he has been since Apocalypse Now, in my opinion, and he just gets better with age. Dule Hill had Psych. That's since gone. Jaleel Maloney you just see in random guest spots here and there. Rob Lowe's Rob Lowe, with all the great work done on his face, and God bless him. I wish I'm not going to look that good at that age with or without work. Allison Janney has been in everything, and deservedly so. Richard Schiff, my favorite, because I love Toby. I like to think of myself as a dumber Toby. And definitely is miserable, which you can attest to all the time when we talk about politics and you tell me to shut up because I am just the most hopeless person of all time. He's been in a number of things, guest spots in Entourage. He was in in Man of Steel, and you'll catch him in things. And you said he was in another show that I think was post West Wing that you saw pre your binging.
Yes. He was in Good Doctor, which is how I knew him. So when I started watching West Wing, I was like, oh my God, because I love him in The Good Doctor. He's, the head of the hospital, very much, in charge and extremely smart and, typical, I guess, character for him. And I really, really loved him in that. So as soon as I saw him in The West Wing, I was like, oh man, he's going to be one of my favorites.
Who is your favorite character from The West Wing?
It changed. In the beginning, I was super into Toby. And as it went on, and obviously John Spencer, who plays Leo, he was like amazing off the bat. But who wound up being my favorite was Martin Sheen as, President Jed Bartlett. And his character, I don't know, he's just like, he makes you wish he was the real president, which I think is like, the point. And he was so, so great in it.
I think anyone who's a diehard fan of The West Wing right now just cries himself to sleep, figuratively speaking, possibly literally, that Jed Bartlett is not the president. Also seen in this is Emily Proctor, who went on to CSI or NCIS, one of those shows I don't watch, and her character of Ainsley is not in the episode, but she does the like at a table read, she does the exposition and whatnot, and of course then there's Bradley Whitford, who has now become like, he plays the daddy role, be it in oh my god, what's the
Get Out.
Get Out, yes. I know it wasn't Us, but in Get Out, and now he's got this look, and let's talk about his new look for a second, because I said when you were binging it that maybe you might be completely annoyed by, but somewhat attracted to that asinine macho swagger that Josh Lyman has, and you weren't, but now, tell us about how you feel about his look now.
Well, I liked his character just fine, but you were always like, oh, he's like one of the heartthrobs, and I'm like, really? Like Rob Lowe, I get it. Like physically very attractive. Physically not attracted to Josh, I wasn't. Although I did like his character. Oddly enough, now I find him to be more physically attractive.
Whoa, you're totally frozen now.
What? Oh no.
Oh, now you're back. See, I think you have a weak connection, and I think since I embarrassed you, I also embarrassed your computer. Oh, and Hannah's just woken up. So, what was it like to see the cast interacting again, even though it's an episode that you had already seen?
Super seamless. It's like they all fell right back into it, which I think is what made it such a great show. I feel like they were probably like best friends, outside of the show, and it just, the only person that was missing was obviously John Spencer, but other than that, it's like, a week later and they're just back on the lot shooting again.
And of course, that's the elephant in the room, is that John Spencer, the late great John Spencer, passed away during the shooting of season 6. So obviously that leaves a huge void in the cast and in the episode. Leo doesn't figure enormously prominent in the episode, but he is there as the glue that holds it all together, as Leo was. So for this episode, Aaron Sorkin, who, might I just say real quick, for those at home.
What?
Yeah, this is
That's cool.
This is a script book for some of the best handpicked episodes by him from seasons 1 and 2. That when I worked on One Life to Live way back in another life 9 years ago, he was on The View. We shared a studio with The View the last few seasons, and I'm just going to put it up here so everyone can see it.
Very
Probably
cool.
completely blurred out, but he was a guest, and so sometimes you were able to ask people to get something signed for you, and so he did, and of course he writes in it, Shane, what's next? Aaron Sorkin, which is so awesome and so cool. Just, what's next? And that's it. I was like, it's handed back to me, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh, and they're like, what? He just wrote what's next. What the hell does that even mean? I'm like, watch the show. It's so cool.
Yeah.
But digressing back to John Spencer, Leo McGarry, who played Leo. Now, in this episode, they tapped Sterling K. Brown from This Is Us, from the O.J. Simpson miniseries, a slew of other things, Black Panther and so forth, to step in as the role of Leo. I think that this is in big part because we always talk about and about what would happen if they were to bring back The West Wing. New episodes, a revival / spinoff continuation. And Aaron Sorkin has said that if he were to bring back The West Wing, he would want Sterling K. Brown to be the new president. we'll talk about later who I want to be president based upon this episode, what many of the fans want. So I think he just is an actor that Aaron Sorkin respects immensely and thought would have the authority to step in as Leo. Go play. What did you think of Sterling K. Brown's performance as Leo?
I liked him as an actor. I think he's great. I didn't love him for this. Mm-hmm. It just part of it is probably just because I miss John Spencer, and I want the original. I want the OG cast together, which is not his fault, obviously. I think anybody would have had a hard time filling his shoes. But number one, I thought he was too young. I don't know why they didn't go with somebody who was older, like Leo. It just makes sense to me that an older person would have more experience, who could potentially have a friendship with Jed Bartlett. They should be around the same age because Leo and him were like super super close best friends. Yeah. And it was fine. I wasn't like super upset about it, but I didn't love it. I didn't love him in the role.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think Sterling K. Brown is a tremendous actor, but I also don't feel he was right for the role of Leo at all. At first, I was buying it, like, cool, when they're in the situation where they're talking about heavy things. And Sterling K. Brown always seems to have this very stern exterior approach towards matters. And so the serious subject matter, be it, I don't watch This Is Us, but I have seen episodes where, like, he meets his...
I love him in that.
Yeah, he, like, with his estranged father being on, having his guard up with that, like, that works. But for Leo, there's a nuance that... Can you please, baby girl, please?
She has something to say.
But the nuance of Leo is special. And I agree with you 100% where he's not old enough to play Leo. He's younger than the cast is now. He's, I suspect, younger than Dule Hill now, who is supposed to be the youngest member in the cast. And yes, granted, this is a reading of an episode from 17 years ago or something like that. It just didn't work. Like, especially one scene that did not work for me was when he's speaking with Josh. And he's, I believe the line is, "It isn't easy being you." And he says it in this almost like, "I don't like you" tone of voice. Whereas Leo is not only Josh's mentor, but he's his friend. He is guiding him. He is grooming him to be chief of staff himself. Yeah. Josh is his deputy, and he gets the nuance of how ridiculous Josh can be sometimes. And that line is supposed to be something more in jest and an acknowledgement of how ridiculous he can be. Now, I don't think that any actor should be trying to do a carbon copy, an imitation, or impersonation of the original actor. You have to have your own spin to it. But I feel like he walked into almost every scene on the defensive. Like, what are these assholes going to say and do and fuck up now? And that's not who Leo is. Even when Leo's pissed at his staff, he still trusts them implicitly. And he'll set them straight, but he does it in this special way. And for me, I know they went for Sterling K. Brown because Aaron Sorkin adores him and wants him to be the next president if he were to revive the show. But if they wanted to go with an African-American actor, Denzel kept popping in my head because not only is he older, he carries a charm and a wit and a strength. He understands nuance better than almost any thespian that's lived for the last 50 years in film.
Then, do you think somebody like Denzel would overpower everybody else? Because everybody would be like, "Oh my God, Denzel Washington, Denzel Washington."
No. Because did you ever see the movie Flight?
Yeah.
Take an actor who matched wits with him from that movie, John Candy. Not John Candy, John Goodman. John Candy's dead. John Goodman, who was the president on The West Wing when Bartlett had to step down.
Oh my God, I forgot
So you look at someone and it's Denzel's film, and yet John Goodman comes in there and he steals that scene, and they match wits and they're equals. Great actors can adjust themselves to whatever the scene and the script calls for. And when you have Aaron Sorkin dialogue, and you have Tommy Schlamme, who was a director on One Life to Live, the show I worked on, that was able to get me that signed autograph, just saying he got his start in soap operas, worked on the same show, but I never met him, never crossed paths. But Tommy Schlamme's direction, someone like Denzel can do it correctly, I feel. What do you think?
For sure, I think he's tremendous. He's one of my favorite actors, for sure. I just mean that, like, his star power.
Yeah.
Other than, like, Martin Sheen, because I feel like Martin Sheen's been in, like, a ton of stuff. I think he would be great. I mean, better than Sterling. But I don't know. Another
actor I had was, who I think would be more John Spencer-esque, would have been Bryan Cranston, I think, who could have killed it. But again, Sterling Brown's performance didn't take me out of it necessarily for the long haul. At moments he did, but he did Dule makes the joke in one of the commercial breaks that he's doing a perfectly passable job. I know that's a joke, and I know they don't feel that way.
Yeah.
To me, it was a passable job, and it's a creative choice, and that's what it is. So, John Spencer is sorely missed, and those scenes did not work for me. I didn't feel like he was President Bartlett's best friend. I didn't feel like he was Josh's mentor. And I felt like he was genuinely pissed at, the pranking scenes with CJ and Charlie.
That was another one. To, like, look at him be, like, the authority to, like, CJ and Charlie. It was like,
And I felt like he was second-guessing Bartlett when Bartlett was making decisions with regard to the international military crisis going on in this episode. And it just didn't work for me, and I think if he had scaled it back and just been a little bit lighter, it would have worked. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. But other people beyond the main cast did come back. We had Ed and Larry, who's who knows.
I squealed when I saw that, because not that they were like major people, but I just love that they were able to find so many people to come back, even in like the smallest roles.
Which is great, is that you see, whenever you do see interviews, like you see a lot of these folks come back. When you're like Carol was also in it, CJ's I guess deputy press secretary. When they were promoting it, they were talking about how many episodes she's in. I think there's 157 episodes of The West Wing, and she was in some 104 or something like that. These people lived on set with each other 14, 16 hours a day, so they're good friends. Seeing Nancy McNally back, that I loved her, and I really feel like she got the shaft in later seasons in favor of Mary McCormick's character. Yeah, so then, and then having that character actor Thomas Kopachi, who was in the scenes with Nancy, who in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s was like a character actor from Star Trek to West Wing to everything, but he's a good actor who no one knows his name, but he's in some of the best stuff, to the main reporters who are always like the background reporters, not like a Danny Kincannon, to WG, getting the composer of the entire series, WG Snuffy Walden, getting a cameo doing the guitar, playing the acoustic guitar with some light strings behind him for the theme song, which just...
That was so good.
It was so good and just so like heartwarming to see all these people back. As people like us, granted, I watched Jake kind of in first run, and you just picked up on it. When you love these characters, you want them back, especially in the void of stuff similar to it. But who was your favorite return person of the Ancillary cast?
I was happy to see Nancy. Like, I wasn't expecting her. Like, of course I remember her, and I feel like, she was in a ton of episodes. But she's also not somebody I would have thought of right away to come back. Mm-hmm.
I still feel like she got the shaft, though.
Why? What do you mean?
When they brought in Mary McCormick's character, Kate Harper, I was like, there's no purpose to her. Like, I'm sorry. She
was like young blood, right?
Yeah, but did she really add anything to the show? I don't think so.
No, she wasn't a favorite of mine.
And I mean, I like Mary McCormick as an actress from the first time I saw her in Howard Stern's Private Parts to other things that I've seen her in. But for West Wing, if you're going to have a deputy national security advisor, just have the national security advisor. I don't know what exactly the decision was behind that, but Nancy, I would have much rather had elevated to a full-time player than bring in this new character that I just feel didn't really add anything. Yeah. But then,
I was going to say I was also happy to see Elizabeth Moss.
Yes. Well, she was in kind of the special guest section.
Yeah. Like, she was just being herself.
Yes.
Like, not playing a role. But she's become huge since, West Wing. And she was so young. Like, I remember watching West Wing. Since I got to see it so many years later, and I would text you all the time. I'm like, oh my God, this person's in it. Oh my God, this person's in it. So to see her come in, I'm glad they figured out how to use her in this because she wasn't in that episode. Just like with
Emily Proctor doing the narration. Yeah. Because what they're doing, audience, is that because it is a traditional, I think, 5-act with the teaser in the beginning structure to television, they are keeping commercial breaks, and in that time doing fundraiser PSAs and adverts and speaking to the audience. And and in that they have not just Elizabeth Moss, but also Marlee Matlin, who had a pretty big recurring role as Joey Lucas, and obviously Elizabeth Moss as Zoe Bartlett. They have Bill Clinton, Michelle Obama, Lin-Manuel Miranda, a band who at the end who played.
Sam Jackson.
Who is it?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, and Sam Jackson. I was talking about the band though. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the name of the band.
Oh, something Brothers.
Something like that. Anyway, I don't know who they are. And Sam Jackson. I was like, oh. That's a complete I get the politicians. I was like, that completely threw me for a loop. But that was awesome though. I mean, Sam Jackson. Maybe he could have played Leo. Shit.
Oh, you know what? That would have been cool.
Because Sam Jackson could be. He's usually an authority figure, but I feel like he can. Oh man. What was that?
I feel like he could be anybody.
What if Bill Clinton played Leo?
Wow. No,
it's not easy being you now, is it? No, where's that Donna Moss? I'd like to have a conversation with her. No? Okay, fine.
No.
Who? But so they so that was cool. They got to incorporate them, and then of course what about who did you miss? Who do you wish they had brought back in some capacity?
Yes. Of course, Abby Bartlett, who is Jed's wife. I don't know when she first comes in. She's in the first season, right? But not until
she comes in. I think the crackpots and these women, something like that. I don't know. I could be. I'm probably mistaking it, but I think it's the first time when Bartlett has everyone over to the residence, and that's when Zoe and Charlie are flirting. I think that's her first episode, but I'm a bad fan.
She was in a ton of them. She was. For me, again, I remember texting you. I'm like, oh my God, it's Dr. Channing. Love her. She's perfect. She's perfect to be his wife. So I was super sad she didn't, again, because she wasn't in that episode, but I feel like they could have, put her in one of those, special scenes or, have her do something.
I mean, she may just have been busy, but, yeah. Someone I really missed was Fitz Wallace, John Amos. Yeah. I remember when they killed Fitz off, I was like, this is so fucking pointless.
Super, super sad.
Curse of the Kate Harper. I'm like, this is so stupid. Mm-hmm. And then they couldn't even get their own continuity right as to what his wife's name was. I digress. But I would have loved to have seen him come back. Like I said, it's just cool to see the character actor Thomas Kopachi back. But if I was Sorkin, I would have reworked some of this episode to make it a little bit longer and throw in a scene with Fitz because there is an international crisis happening. They do mention his name and throw in an Abby scene. And Danny Kincannon scene, which
was missing him for sure. He was the main reporter.
Yeah.
He was the whole leader of that sort of gang.
Who, when he first premiered on the show, when you were watching it, Jackie over here texting like, who is this guy? I don't like him. He's obnoxious. Why doesn't he just leave them alone? Why doesn't he just let them do what they're doing? And I'm like, by the end of this show, you're going to adore him. And I'm not going to like him. And then it was like, oh, him and CJ get together. Yay. Sure, it's ruined by the first scene of season 7, but whatever.
I wasn't a fan of him in the beginning. I found him to be like irritating, but that was the point. That's who he was supposed to be. So he did his job. I hated him, then I loved him. So, I would have loved to see him too. And
someone who I really wish they would have showed or had in the episode was Amy Gardner, who played by Mary Louise Parker, who I don't know if you can see it, audience, but we have them side by side now. If you know my friend Jackie here, you know that many people in her life have compared her to not only Mary Louise Parker, but this character, to the point where that was probably part of the reason why you didn't watch it so much earlier, because you're like, fuck this. I don't remind myself of this woman. No. And you don't even like that character. That's the funniest part.
I don't hate her, but I don't. She irritated me like all the time, and I don't know. I kind of don't know what her purpose was. Like, I feel like if she wasn't there, it would have been okay. Why? Like, sure, she brought up a lot of like women's issues, but she did it like in an obnoxious way, and like in your face, like all the time. And she was like so aggressive. It's like, you don't have to be like that extra.
Says you as you're being extraordinarily aggressive right now. But can you do us all a favor and take off your glasses real quick and look to your upper left?
Take off my glasses.
Yeah, and look to your upper left, kind of like an annoyed but intrigued. Oh, other way, sorry. Yeah, your upper left.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. But look kind of intrigued, like how you like Bradley Whitford's hair now.
Oh, whatever. Come on.
Oh, that's going to be the best part of this episode. And thankfully gone for me were, like I said, Kate Harper. I like Josh Malina as an actor. I like Mary McCormick as an actor. But Josh Malina, I feel like they gave up on Will Bailey once Sorkin left, and they just kind of made him this kind of like dude who's there, who's kind of obnoxious. They never did his character justice, and thankfully Kristen Chenoweth wasn't brought back either, whose character, I don't even remember her name.
I liked her.
Was she needed?
I think because it was kind of like a transitional thing. They were starting to bring in new people, so that's why she was there. And I didn't mind her. She wasn't in it too much.
Janine Garofalo, but why was she contract? Because Wicked was big at the time, and blah blah blah. Look, Janine Garofalo, recurring character, infinitely better character than Kristen Chenoweth's character.
Because Kristen Chenoweth represented that like small time person who like made it big to the White House, and like, you know, I don't know. I didn't mind her, and I guess my favorite scene with her, which I remember telling you about, was when Leo dies. For me, that was like super. I wanted everybody to react the way she did, and I think it was kind of perfect that they made her.
She was great in that scene. She was. I mean, I think Kristen Chenoweth is amazing as an actor. Like, again, they always cast really great actors, even if I feel like their characters are pointless. That has nothing to do with the actor. They sold it as best they could, and she was brilliant in that scene. I was just happy that they didn't go with an episode or something new that would bring back all these people. They kept it to that core original cast that we really have a kinship with. So that's, it's nothing against the actors. Just I'm very satisfied with the choice that was made. And then further choices, the new format. What did you feel like? I love when Sorkin's writing can stand on its own, and then they put it into a completely new medium, and to have it on stage. And granted, this isn't a production that could have been actually done in exactly the same way, because there are clear cuts where now a new set piece is suddenly behind them because they're transitioning. That wasn't throughout the entire scene like in an actual play. But I feel like they really, and that's a lot Tommy Schlammy's directing, took full advantage of the Orpheum, which is where they shot it, which I believe is the same place where they shot the theater that was supposed to be on Broadway in Posse Comitatus back in the series. But the way they were able to add in set pieces and make it feel like you're on the sets. Like, I have an image up right now. I know you can't see it, where when Charlie's going from Josh to CJ's office, which we all know we're down the hall from each other, and all the different in-set environment lighting that made for the spotlighting, and it just it was, I don't know, I mean, the recreations are real, or they say parts of the set. I love how the West Wing lends itself to this new format. When Donna's out talking by the gates in the episode, in this, they bring in the moonlight lighting and the angles and the shadows, and taking full advantage and reinventing and giving life to an episode that's almost 2 decades old in a visual sense, making it in a way even more stunning than the actual episode itself. What did you like about that, or not like about it?
I thought it was great. I think it's a strong enough show with such great writing and such great actors that it doesn't need all that. It doesn't need an actual set, and what they were able to reproduce was enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, it was really great, especially like the scene outside with Donna and Josh. It feels like they're outside. It feels like it's freezing. And meanwhile, they're just like on a little corner probably of the stage. So I think it was great. I think it was just enough.
What slight changes or scenes did you really, really like?
The fishbowl, yeah, of course. That was such a... I feel like true West Wing fans, like, they know to, like, look for it. And in the real show, like, the little setting for, like, the fish would change per episode depending on, like, what was going on, which was super cute. But, like, most people aren't going to look for that. But, like, for little Gail to make her little appearance was super cute, and I think it was like a nice touch.
And I think I tried to look and I couldn't make it out fully, but I believe they had little Biden-Harris flags in there in the fishbowl. I think they definitely had little flags in there, but it looked like the kind that you would put on your lawn or something like that. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what it said. What I did enjoy, and of course, any West Wing fan out there who may see this, if I'm wrong, feel free to beat me up. I deserve it. But I'm pretty sure that in that episode, the fishbowl, for the only time in the series, is on CJ's filing cabinets and not on her desk. Because obviously, Charlie destroys her desk, it caves in. But in this, they change it to where Charlie catches the fishbowl. Love it. Because I was always like, this is so stupid. This is... randomly all of a sudden, I know the fishbowl is like breaking their fourth wall anyway, with them always having, like, whenever they had an issue with the astronauts or whatever, they would have a little moon man in there. But why is it up on the filing cabinet and not on the desk? It's so stupid. And they fixed it, and Charlie catches it, and I adore it. If I'm wrong, please at me if I'm wrong, because I deserve it, because I'm a shitty fan then.
I feel like I have seen it not on her desk before, but I feel like that was more towards the beginning. Which I guess this episode kind of is towards the beginning. Like, maybe, like, right around when she first got it, she wasn't sure what to do with it, maybe? I don't remember. Maybe in the first season. But by season 3, it was definitely always on her desk, I think. But maybe I'm wrong. I could very well be wrong. I mean, I have seen... I don't know. You've only seen the series once. I've seen seasons 1 through 4 probably 20 times each episode. Seasons 1 through 4. Wow. I've had a decade and a half to rewatch it, and it's... really one of the most I mean, it's not my favorite show of all time. Obviously, it's Deep Space Nine, but it's up there. It's probably number 2. Oh, it's probably number 2. I think it's the smartest show ever written. I mean, from where I came from, thinking, oh, no one would look like that, to adoring it and thinking it is probably the most rewatchable show, the first 4 seasons in history, in my opinion. Yeah. My favorite scene, of course. And this is a scene that actually you and I talked about ad nauseum when you binged it a few months ago, were the chess scenes. Because we talked about, and I'll start with the one that's my lesser of the two, which is Bartlett versus Sam Seaborn, their chess game. Because Bartlett's doing in 2 chess matches throughout this episode. And I always said, if they were to bring this back, I want President Sam Seaborn. And you were like... that's stupid. I don't like that. In your typical Amy Gardner kind of way. And I was like, well, wait. But I'm on board now, so.
Now you're on board. Yeah, you're on board with a lot of things.
Because I needed a minute. Because, I needed to go through the whole thing.
Exactly.
And then I saw the bigger picture.
And in that scene, and I have the shot up of Rob Lowe's reaction in this. Interesting to see how the choices he made acting wise, as opposed to, 17 or whatever it was years ago when the episode was shot. When he figures out what's going on, and Bartlett's guiding him through international diplomacy and politics, and he just tells him, one day you're going to run for president, Sam. And for me, and for a lot of fans I know, that is when people were like, I want to spin off 20 years from now of President Sam Seaborn running for president, becomes president his first term. And then a lot of fans later on were like, you know what? I want Charlie as his chief of staff, because that's the direction Charlie's going in. Is that you?
Yeah.
Yes. and so like, and we were talking ad nauseum yesterday about it, like who we have as main characters, who would be returning, blah blah. We won't get into that, but I absolutely adore that scene, because for me, it's set up what the future should be. And then, of course, the Toby versus Bartlett, which you love Toby, because like he could have been nicer about the way he does. And I love the foil, the absolute equal that he was, the honest truth. Everyone, like Aaron Sorkin has said, everyone should have a Toby in their life, because no one called Bartlett out on his shit like Toby did. And this is after their big blow up with him figuring out MS, but or being told about the MS. It's their reconciliation, while also Toby challenging Bartlett to do better than he's ever done for his re-election campaign. And so to have this episode be the one, it just covers so much ground of what made that series great. And to have, I just love seeing these actors hit these beats again, do it in an older way with different choices, but still portraying these same emotions. And I feel the time pour out from the screen of how long these actors have known each other and lived with these characters and adored the work that they did in each other. And I feel like this was just, those scenes were perfection between Martin Sheen and Richard Schiff. What do you think of those scenes?
Same. I mean, I don't have such a big problem with Sam and Bartlett's scenes. I think they were great too. It's just another level of like their friendship, and another level of the way they communicate. Because I think also that's what made the show so great, is that beyond a professional relationship, there was like an underlying closeness between all of them. And even the way they offer, Bartlett advice, it's so different than probably how it really is. So yeah, I mean, love Toby, love him forever. Although he has his faults, and I think as a woman, I see them differently than you.
Probably.
And Sam, what is it about the Sam scene that you don't like, that you had an issue with?
No, I didn't have any issue with it. It's just, for me, obviously, anything Toby is just going to just trump. God, I hate that term now. Is going to outdo anything else, unless, of course, they were recreating how the final character arc for his character, which they completely screwed him on. But that's beside the point. It just, anything with that. I mean, obviously, I want a whole spinoff based off that scene with Sam. So I absolutely adore that. Yeah. And Rob Lowe, who I was never a fan of until The West Wing, who I think has commitment issues to series. It felt like Sam. I didn't feel like he was Sam necessarily when he came back in season 7.
Yeah.
First, because he wasn't brought back for the right episode. He should have been brought back for Leo's funeral. That was the only person missing, really. But he didn't feel as much like Sam. But in this, he felt like Sam. And everyone felt like their characters, but having had known that there was kind of like a weirdness when he came back the first time, like now I felt like he eased right back into it. So I loved it too. I had no problem with it.
Yeah. It was great.
It was. And then finally the episode ends. Actually, they transition back to the last couple shots of the actual episode, where you see one woman casting her vote for the first time, a young woman in the episode who's now probably almost as old as me. Ugh, poor woman. And it was, it was cool to have that little transition, and then it ended with Emily Proctor logging off and them having the band, which I thought was cool to have a little bit of that final scene from the episode. So is there anything you would have done differently other than not having Sterling K. Brown as Leo?
No, other than like making it longer because I'm greedy and I want more. No, I think they did it justice. I think they did it in an appropriate way. They didn't do too much. Other than like my missing people, which is nobody's fault. Like who knows? But no, I think it was great. I just want more.
I agree. I completely agree, and I do hope that this brings about a spinoff that's done correctly with Sorkin. I know we probably wouldn't get the President Seaborn that we want and whatnot, but I know you have a different take on revivals than I do.
Not a fan. Would you be okay with a revival with Sterling K. Brown as the president?
I think I'd have to see what they do with it. I would it wouldn't be one of those things where it's like when I hear that Alex Kurtzman's coming out with now they're talking about reviving Deep Space Nine, and I want to kill myself because of it. I know they're going to completely ruin the greatest Trek of all time. I think Sorkin could really make it something special, and I think there's something poetic to it being a little bit more in line with his original vision, not in the sense that the president would necessarily be not the main focus, but the first person they looked at by many accounts I've seen, or at least one of the top people, and someone I think they almost had like a handshake agreement with, was Sidney Poitier. Mm-hmm. And I do say that Sterling K. Brown really reminds me of a modern day Sidney Poitier in his style of acting. And so I think there would be something nice about Sorkin being able to get that for him, for the audience, for myself. Selfishly, I want something different. But I would give it a shot, and I think I can't be any more disappointed than some of the choices they made in the last 3 seasons after Sorkin left. So
yeah, I would be okay with it if it was like the original intent, where like the president's not going to be in every episode, and it's more about like the staff versus him as one of the main characters. Then I would be more okay with it. I think.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it happens, and hopefully, if anything, maybe they come back and they do readings of different episodes here and there for political events. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, real quick, When We All Vote Together, which is the organization that they're in conjunction with, which is now on the screen. Their website is whenweallvote.org. I'll have it in the description down below. You can register to vote, which for many places, including New York, you're past that point. Pledge to be a voter, check your status, request a ballot. A big thing going on right now are folks who aren't showing up on November 3rd, or who aren't going in places where they have early voting in person voting like New York, are mailing it in. You can check your status on your mail-in ballot and whatnot. And I know for some individuals, my friend was talking yesterday about how he kind of had a panic attack because it was sitting in the post office for 12 days, and then finally it was accepted. And so this is a site. And you can also donate to help with Election Day and their efforts to help get out that vote. And so that's the website that they were in conjunction with, the organization they're in conjunction with. And again, the link is below. You can check it out for yourself. And just in general, it's an amazingly entertaining episode. The words speak for themselves. The acting is second to none, including Sterling K. Brown, who was an excellent actor. We just didn't feel he was right for this role. It's nothing against him. And I highly recommend it. If stars were Bartlett for America napkins, how many Bartlett for America napkins would you give this?
Out of what?
Out of 5. 5 being the best.
A 5, of course.
I didn't expect you to say that. I would give just because I think the choice of Leo's.
I wasn't super well, but the thing is here too, Leo was like a huge part of like every episode. This one, he's like not. Mm-hmm. He's not in it so much, so I'm like I'm okay with it. And I think they did the best they could with I mean, who knows who else they had in mind, maybe, and just couldn't do it or whatever. Although, like you said, they want him for president. I don't know. But I think it was great. Because, as you said, I'm not a huge fan of like reboots or remakes or like bringing old stuff back. I hate it, actually. I think it's like so pointless. Like, just let stuff end where it was, especially stuff that was so great. Like, let it just live in its glorious memory. But I think they did it justice, so that's why I'm happy with it.
Okay, and wow, I was gonna give it 4.5 Bartlett for American napkins because of that, but yeah, I think you swayed me, and I'm gonna have to give it 5 as well.
Yes.
I think you swayed me. You've changed my opinion. In a very un-Toby-like moment, I am going to change my opinion on something, and yeah, so 5 across the board. That's 10 Bartlett for American napkins, framed, of course. Any final thoughts?
I want more, but I want the original cast. I want more of exactly what they did.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm open to the spin-offs and stuff, but I want more of this.
Yes, agreed. Aaron Sorkin, if you're listening, Tommy Shalami, HBO, NBC, whoever it might be, Peacock, whatever. Maybe every 2 years for the election cycle, pick a new episode. Every 2 years, go for it, please. We need it. All right. Well, my friends, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all the things you're not going to do, but hit the bell icon, blah, blah, blah. But thank you for watching. If you made it this far, please check this out. It's very much worth it. And if you're new to the West Wing, it's a great introductory episode to get your feet wet, and then you can dive right in. You will not be sorry. So, Jackie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Everyone, be good to each other and go to sleep.